Tapped in exclusive. We are the internet, bitch.
Tap.
You're tapped in to the Tapped In podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Melody, and I'm here today with my favorite Canadian rapper, New.
What's good, bro?
What's up? We're doing a little interview today for Tapped In, and I want to start off with talking about New's origins. So I know we talked earlier, obviously, but for the record, let's talk about where you were born and when you ended up in Canada. I think that's like really interesting, actually.
I was born in Jamaica.
Yeah.
But I moved to Canada when I was like 2 years old, so obviously I don't remember,
Yeah,
remember any of that. But yeah, I lived in Toronto my whole life.
Your whole life, right?
Now, 23 years old.
Yeah.
My whole life.
Nice. And so you grew up in Toronto, and I know you were telling me that you grew up with like quite a large family.
Yeah.
So touch on that. I mean, in terms of siblings, how many?
I got 5 older sisters and 2 older brothers.
Yeah, so you grew up in a household of 8 siblings in total.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And in terms of your upbringing, you were around like so much female energy.
No, for sure.
How did that like inform your art, you know?
I just think it just, for the most part, it just kind of made me, at the time I didn't really notice or take it in what was really, it's just life, But like when I started making music, maybe it kind of helped me, I don't know, my perspective on certain things, subjects like love or certain things just kind of different from.
They got shaped.
Yeah, from being around that type of upbringing,
Yeah, of course. I mean, I told you, growing up with so much female energy in a house with tons of females, it really like gives you perspective on relationships, on life. You get to see different relationships that they deal with. You see how men fuck up. You see
for sure. You
how
get
men
to see
do good and shit.
all the good, the ups and downs.
Yeah.
And it's like at the time it's like you don't care. You just like, I was like a teenager.
Right.
Or younger, and just like seeing my sisters in whatever situation, or my older sisters at the end of the day.
Right.
So you kind of still like, when you're a kid, you have like, I don't care what's going on with my sister. Or,
you're not really tapped into
but
to their shit. Yeah.
I don't know. In a way, it kind of just something just kind of sticks, or I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, it leaves an imprint that for sure stays with you, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if anything, it's positive. But in terms of when you started making music, I mean, I know you had mentioned your brother was a rapper, and then he ended up producing.
Yeah, my older brother is how I started getting into rap music. He kind of just, at first, I would just be chilling with him in his room playing video games, and then he was a rapper, so like he would rap, and then whenever he would record, I'd get out the room or whatever. But like, it was just,
he would have you leave the room.
Yeah, like that's just like, normal. Like people just know.
I'm fucking making music.
It's weird. Even me, I wouldn't want somebody just standing right. I mean, it doesn't really matter actually, but like, at that time, he'd have me leave the room, and then but at the time. There was one time we were playing video games, and it was like playing like Dragon Ball Z all night.
What were you playing though?
Budokai 2.
Okay, I was gonna say 3 though.
Nah, Budokai 2 at the time. 2 wasn't out yet.
Oh, okay.
Wait, maybe 3 was. I don't know. Maybe 3 was out. I don't know.
Damn.
But
you were playing PS2.
The PS2.
All right, respect. Yeah, that's great.
I think it's only on PS2.
You can only. I mean, I think GameCube had an iteration, but that's all.
I had a
shit.
GameCube and I didn't have that. I had Budokai 1 for GameCube.
Damn.
And then they stopped making it, so I was
tight.
Why
Why did they fuck over Nintendo like that? It's crazy.
I don't know, bro.
We don't got the answers. But so you end up, leaving the room.
So we were just like playing till the morning, and then like I think he had like put on some beats. I had other cousins there. Yeah. My brother is 4 years older than me, so I think at the time he was like maybe like 18. So like he's like he do whatever the fuck he want, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
was he out of the house or he was also living in the house?
he was living in the house, but
Yeah.
he was just like, you know, like I had school in the morning, but he didn't, you know, so he was just
Yeah, his
done.
own shit,
He was
yeah.
on his own shit. So he was just we were listening to beats, and he just like told me to rap, and I was just rapping,
Yeah.
like freestyling was probably just like garbage, but like
But
the
you was just
next-
fucking around.
I was fucking around, but
Yeah.
then like actually like it's just crazy because being from Toronto at the time is just like, you know, there's like a handful of artists that
Yeah.
are successful, so it's just kind of just like, you know, you're doing it for fun. You just rapping.
You
for
just
fun.
rapping to rap.
Yeah,
It's
so I
like
was just rapping,
it's like playing Budokai.
and I didn't even
You're just
care. I went
chilling.
to sleep
Yeah.
that night. The next day, like I went to school, came home, and then he was just like, it's like he was thinking about it all day. He was like, "Yo, bro, you need to that freestyle you did last night." I was like,
That shit
"Yo,
was hard."
chill." I'm like, "Yo, chill." Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's crazy that it was like sitting on his mental like while you're at school, and he just waits for you to get home, and he's like, "Hey, bro,
Yeah.
you gotta lay that down."
Cause he's
you know?
like a producer. Like he's like at the time like the biggest artist is Kanye. So like
Wow.
he's like it's like 2008, 2009.
So
Wait,
he's
no,
just
actually
into
no,
that.
2000. Whenever he dropped Dark Twisted Fantasy, 2010. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's like, bro. At the time, he was just making all these beats and making and writing his raps, just because that was like the thing. Because what Kanye was doing, he's producing and rapping, so he was just
Right.
a producer.
Right.
So he was trying to like edge from the producer to the rapper, and he needed a rapper to work with. And he's
Right.
like, who better to work with than my brother? So he just kind of just was like talking to me about it, and I never listened to him for like maybe like a couple months.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
No, that makes sense.
you know, I started doing it for fun, and then took it seriously. Maybe after a couple months or after a year or so.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's pretty incredible that your like forte or your intro into music started under your own roof with someone so close to you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like you were inspired by some other Canadian artists. You were just hanging out with your brother. And do you think he just like saw potential in you, or do you think he was just fucking with you?
Nah,
Like, he
I
was
think
just like-
I think if you just got it, you got it. Like,
You got, yeah, I
even if
actually-
it wasn't
I
that
respect
fire,
that
there's just
answer.
something, you know what I'm saying? You know, when you can
Yeah.
hear something, you just hear that little bit of potential in it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then you just,
No, that makes a ton of sense. So
Yeah.
you're hanging out. How old were you when this happened? Would you
like,
say
15.
15? Okay. So do you walk out of the room and then just start writing raps? Like, do you feel like, damn,
Nah, I
I'm an
never-
artist? Like, when did that shit happen?
That didn't happen for a while, because after that happened,
Yeah.
I didn't even rap. Like, I was just still, you know, just living my life, going to school.
Yeah.
And then I dropped out of school. And then,
This is high school, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I dropped out, and then I was just chilling, doing like
Doing your own
a
shit.
bunch of other shit. And
Yeah.
then, like, it wasn't even music. I was just doing other shit. And then, I don't know. I think just one day, like, I just kind of just, like, I was at his house. He was producing. He's like, bro, you should rap on this beat. So I was just like, all right, let me just rap on this. And
Just
then I
kinda
just
like on a
hopped on
whim.
it. And he's, like, engineering, too. He went to school for all this shit. He was trying to do, like, everything at once.
Yeah.
Like, bro. So he just, like, he bought the mic. He bought the good mic. He's like, oh, he's like, yo, Drake records with this mic. So I was like, all right. bet.
And like being from Canada, you're like, all right, it's a fucking go.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I didn't even care about that.
Nah.
I was just like, all right, let's just do this.
But I
And
meant your
just,
brother, you know,
No, for
It's
sure,
probably
because
like,
he's
yeah.
like a real music guy. Like he's
music
trying to
head.
make-
Yeah, yeah.
He wants the best of the best. So like, anyways, I recorded, and then like he made it. I would just listen to it, and then I was like, all right, let me just do it. I'm not doing anything else.
Yeah.
So I just did it, and then, you know, shit kind of, I don't know. I didn't really take it seriously even after that until like maybe I only started dropping music seriously like 2 years ago.
Yeah, we're talking 2017 era.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I actually wanted to talk about that because I thought that before you came in, so I was like, you know, obviously listening to your shit, and I really liked your track Alaska, but I know you got a story about that track. So
Yeah.
I mean, speak on it. How did that even, you know, come to be? And just
With
make sure you got
Alaska,
the
it's
mic. My
like-
bad.
Yeah,
Make sure you got
hold
the
up,
mic.
let me get the mic right.
Yeah, perfect.
With Alaska is like
Yeah.
I was like, I never really cared about the release of music or like putting it out the right way
about-
or whatever people talk about it
Yeah.
being the right way.
Packaged
But being from
properly.
like Toronto is kind of different. You just kind of have to it's not the States. So you gotta understand like
How it
that
works.
how you can get to the market that you trying to
That you want to
appeal
break
to.
into.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like my brother had met this, or my other boy had met this one dude. He's like, oh, he does PR, he does marketing, whatever.
Yeah.
He's gonna get your song on this,
It was
and
like,
that, and the
yeah,
third. And I was like, all right, cool,
blogs
that's
and
cool,
whatever,
yeah. So I was just chilling that day. I remember we were just like, it was like a Monday or Sunday, and we were just chilling, and then we were just like by like a beach. It was like a beach on the, like Toronto doesn't have any real
body of water.
yeah, it was
in
a body,
Canada.
yeah, by the lake, you know.
Yeah, you
So
hang out by a lake.
we were there, and then I remember like vividly, we was chilling there. I'm waiting. He's like, oh, it's gonna get posted at 6. So at 6:00 came, and then I was just watching it, and then didn't get posted, and then from there I was just like, all right, fuck it, let me just drop it myself. So I dropped it.
This is your song.
Yeah. So I just dropped it, and then like maybe like 2 hours after I dropped it, I had got like this message about like some like the dude from Complex. He was just like, oh, just come, you want to come to New York? I was like, all right, are you gonna fly me to New York? And then
You got the budget
like,
for this shit?
He's like, nah. And I'm like, all right, so I'll see you in like 2-3
gotta
weeks.
figure it out.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll figure it out, then I'll come. So like 2 weeks later, I went there, and then showed them the video, because I already shot a video. Me and my boys had came out here to LA in like 2017, like January, and shot a video. Yeah. For the song, but no one had seen it at the time. Nah. So I showed it to them, and then he was like, oh, I want to put this out under our platform. So we put it out under his thing, and then we had drove back to Toronto. And by the time I got back to Toronto, it was just like it was like going up. It was like 20,000 views, and it was like the first day or 2 days.
This is after you literally drive from New York back to Toronto.
Yeah, and then the craziest thing is like we're leaving New York, and then there's like you know when your phone like just like has like a emergency alert. Yeah. Like my phone was going crazy. Everyone's phone was going crazy. We're in the car, and then it's like extreme like flooding in your area. So we were driving, and we was driving from New York. So we drove through New Jersey, and like the water was like it's like crazy high,
up
like,
to the window.
Yeah, like the car was underwater, like kinda. Right. But like, you know, it was a rough drive, but like
well, it's funny because out of that crazy tragedy where you're driving through floods to Toronto,
yeah, it was worth it. Yeah, because like at the same time we're driving, me and my boys are like, yo, it's lit. You know what I'm saying? We're going back to Toronto, we're lit. You know what I'm saying?
Fuck it, I got like, 20K on my video. Like, it's a wrap.
Yeah, exactly. And like the first like day, so it's just like, oh, this is crazy. We're driving back. We didn't even care the car was flooding. It was just like, all right,
fuck it. I mean, so you come out with Alaska, you get some good buzz, it's all good, but then you end up creating a project, right? Afterwards. So how did you end up coming to put out your first project? What inspired you? Was it just that you were making music for so long, or was it that you had an opportunity?
I didn't want to... I wanted to put out a project, but like at the time it was just like so much. I wasn't all the way ready to, in my mind, to take it seriously yet. So I kind of put out the project, and I think there's like 9 songs on there, and then I don't know, like I just felt like that was just like the necessary route. Like you put out a couple of singles, and you put out a project. But like I don't know, like I feel like I should like. The way that music has progressed, it's not really even about the one project. It's more about like, you know what I'm saying, the songs, you know what I'm saying, individually.
Where you're at sonically too. That's always important. But like, for example, tell our listeners the name of your project, the full length project.
Which one? The one, I don't know. I dropped a project in 2017.
No. The 2018 project.
2018 project. Oh yeah.
Neverland.
You Met Me at a Strange Time.
Exactly.
I made that.
I didn't want to say the name because I want you to define it for me. How did you end up finding this name? Was that kind of like where you were at?
It's more like a thing where it's like I was just like, once I started taking anything seriously, it's just kind of like I wanna just do the most with it and not really just kind of just have it pass by. So I was just like thinking about. I was watching like mad movies.
At the time.
What
was just like watching. Do you
I was
remember like
watching
what you
like mad sci-fi movies and mad fantasy movies, and I was like getting high as shit. Like I was like tripping, you know what I'm saying? I was like doing acid with my boys,
Yeah.
with my girl at the time.
Damn.
And
You're doing acid with your girl and making music?
that's what we would do that shit like once a week.
That's beautiful. I mean,
And like
that must have built a really cool relationship.
Like, we was watching like Fight Club.
Oh,
and I hate to say that movie. It's like a cliche movie. Everyone says.
That's not. I mean,
it's cliche.
Okay, yes, it's cliche. It's cliche. But Chuck Palahniuk's a good writer, so.
But it's just like the end of the movie. The last line in the whole movie is "You met me at a strange time in my life," and I didn't want. That was like the whole thing I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But then everyone around me was like, "You can't have. It's just too long of a title." No. But I was just like, "All right, cool."
That's when you know it's good.
Yeah, but like it was just, to me, it was just like I was taking it in. I was the way I looked at the title. It was one of those things where I just thought I'm gonna just introduce people to me right now, and there's a lot going on in my life right now. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like a strange time in my life, and I was like, you met me at a strange time, and this is like the first time people are really gonna get to hear me in like a longer and like a full length of music.
Full length
you know what I'm saying?
Album. That was my point. It was funny because I was looking through your work and I really liked it, but I liked it more so because it was this introduction to you that I feel like people kind of need to hear. You know what I mean? Like in terms of introducing your sound, because when you and I kind of had a discussion about Canadian rappers.
Yeah.
And so people, it doesn't even actually, not even rapper, Canadian artists. You have a certain perception, especially if you're in LA or you're living in the States, of what that sounds like. Yeah. You have like a stereotype, you know? And I feel like when you put your shit on, it kicks down the doors. Because you listen to Death Star, you know, you don't, it's not, it doesn't sound like, you know, Tory or Drake or anyone from Canada. It sounds like you. It's a very uniquely you album. And I feel like that's what's cool about your sound.
I consciously try to be different, but at the same time, it's like naturally, I think I'm already different.
At
but
the
like,
same time, it's you.
Yeah.
You can't fake that, you know?
But all those guys like Drake, Tory, The Weeknd, it's like all like Toronto. Like when you grow up in Toronto, it's kind of like inevitable. You have to listen to those artists. So they're going to be influences on you regardless whether you like it or not. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
They are the most popular artists in the city. So it's just like,
right,
you're gonna have those influences, and I think that Toronto does. I think in my music I still do have that like
right,
that slower melodic,
you have
that Toronto vibe, but still I understand what you're saying with the whole like
the unique sound.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
I feel so after you put out the project, you start making your own singles afterwards with like 4 a.m. But between then and now, have you done performances that you really like are super notable for you? That you were like really proud of that you got to finally do?
What do you mean performances?
Like, have you gotten to perform in settings that, like, you know, North by Northeast?
Oh yeah, no.
Last
year I performed. I opened for Fetty Wap on a tour. Like he did a Canadian tour. And
shit! Fetty Wap was doing a Canadian tour. And you got to open for him?
Yeah, last year.
How was that? Was that like a fucking movie for you? It
was crazy because I don't know how it is in the States, but like, you from Toronto, you don't really go like, there's no really need to go anywhere else outside Toronto. So it was a good experience to see everywhere else, and it's definitely like a different vibe everywhere you go. Like,
that's crazy. Do you think that like there's a huge difference between you being in the US and you being in Canada, like creatively or audience wise? Like how do you feel having that dual identity musically?
I still think I gotta like break through to like the States more so, because in Canada, like in Toronto, people obviously know more so about my music or what's going on, and then like it's definitely different, obviously.
What are some of the biggest differences you see? Just maybe with like people, for example.
Well, I mean, Toronto is kind of like the States, but so it's like within Toronto, it's cool.
Right.
But like everywhere else you go is just different. It's more like, you know, it's kind of like whatever is going on that night is like the biggest thing that's going on in that whole city for like maybe like the past year. Because like we went to this one place we went to like this spot in British Columbia in this like this random city called Nanaimo, and like it was like, and it was like they're like no one ever came here, and they're like there for Fetty Wap, so they're like no one ever in the history of their whole city ever came there ever, nobody.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's just it's just a lot of people, and they just like show a lot of love and shit.
Well, I mean, again, so your next project that you're currently cooking, I know you and I listen to some one-offs. We listen to your, like, I know you got a cellar or a vault of just fucking tracks right now. But what's your next project that you're working on? Do you have a title yet? Do you have anything you want people to know about your next project, or you want to keep it, sealed?
I'm making a new project right now, but I don't have a name for sure. But I'm definitely working on a new project. I feel like I'm more like that type of artist. Like, even though there's not a lot of artists out right now that are maybe album or project artists, I feel like I can, like, that's just what I like to do. You know what I'm saying? Make more so like a larger body of work. Right. And release it.
Well, I mean, so on the topic of Canada, right? So you're working on your project. You're getting all your shit out. I know you and I were fucking chatting before the show. Yeah. And there's one story in particular out of Canada that I got to hear you at least share it again. And I believe it has to do with a very large Canadian artist.
It's just like...
And another large Canadian artist. But yeah, go ahead. I'll let you tell it.
No, it was just some Toronto. Like, it's like, every city has their, like, their, what's going on within the city. Yeah. I was just saying, like...
Because we were talking about Drake and Tory.
No, I was just saying, like, Tory, obviously everyone's a big fan of Drake. Like, it's inevitable to be a big fan of Drake if you're from Toronto. So I was saying, like,
if you're from anywhere at this point.
If he had even, he had leased the car in Drake's name, I think. That's was like, I was just a kid hearing these stories, you know what I'm saying?
These
But that's just Toronto like,
fables.
You have to just, like, realize, like, when Drake is, like, Drake, like... You know what I'm saying? Everybody in Toronto, especially those times, 2010, 2011, he's the biggest artist in the whole fucking
city.
In the
Actually,
in the world at the time.
If we're being fair, yeah.
But it's like in Toronto, it's magnified like times 100. So it's just like everybody is just like, it's crazy. But like,
but the rumor was
that's what it was. I was like a teenager at the time. I didn't even know. But that's just what, like, I would just be sitting around hearing all these different type of stories about everybody. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like.
But the fact
Toronto's a crazy place.
The fact that it very may have well sparked beef was Tory had potentially signed a lease under Drake's name, which is fucking hilarious.
It's funny, but shit.
At the end of the day, that's, like, that shit is crazy. I mean, and it makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? But, so when can we look forward to hearing your new shit? Do you have, like, a projected date for when you're going to drop your project?
I want to drop it in, like, the next month or, like, the next 2 months.
Oh, okay, great. So we'll hear it soon. Yeah. And do you plan on doing any performances, or are you just going to head back to Toronto and perform there? Like, while you're out here?
I don't have any performances lined up out here. I have, like, a couple shows maybe in Toronto, but mostly I want to just, like, finish up my project, put out some videos, and just... see where it goes from there,
Yeah, that makes sense. And what can you tell me about the JTK tape?
I just been making a lot of... every time I go to the studio, I make at least like 3-4 songs. So it's just kind of one of those...
Of course. I mean, that's what you're out here doing right now.
Yeah, so it's just like... You just have so much... I was just like... He sent me like a pack. JTK, he like produced for like a lot of artists right now, like Cowboy, Polo G. Yeah. And like he had sent me, my manager also manages him, and he had sent me a pack from him. It was like 80, 100, like 100 beats. Right. So I had ended up recording like maybe like 10 or 15 over his beats, and we had like narrowed it down to like a 5-6 song EP. So like,
wow. So we might be able to expect a really concentrated project from you and JTK.
Yeah.
Well,
For
see,
sure.
that shit is fire, because you and I were talking about that earlier too. Was being able to cook like directly with a certain selection of beats made by one person.
Yeah, and he's dope because
So-
like people know him for like maybe one side of his whole thing. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like people know him for more of like the I don't know, maybe the more up tempo or turn up type of
His general vibe.
general vibe. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like he has so many different beats, and like some of the beats I got on is just like crazy. So
Well,
it was
you,
like
you have the pack, so you
Yeah.
know, like you more than anyone get to
Yeah.
hear the diversity in the beats.
Yeah,
so I'm
for
sure you
sure.
picked fucking crazy beats to go over.
yeah, no, it's fire.
Well, if we want people from Tapped In to follow you, where the fuck can they find you? Where do you want them to go? What's the best way to get you paid? Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, Tidal? What do you want? Where do you want people to pick
I'm on
you up?
like Apple Music, Tidal, Spotify, SoundCloud, everything.
Do you get paid
IG.
more off a platform that we can push people
You don't
to?
get paid at all off the platform. I mean, you do, but
Where do
not.
you want your plays at? You want them on Spotify?
Spotify.
All right, so check out NUE on Spotify,
Yeah.
and then where do you want them to follow you? You got the IG
NUE
obviously.
_, on Instagram.
NUE _?
Yeah, on Instagram.
You got
on,
Twitter, anything
Twitter,
like that?
at
YouTube?
RealNew, RealNue.
All right,
on Twitter.
Perfect. So I'll be looking out for your next project. Hopefully we'll be able to get that real soon. If you ever want to drop an album, you're welcome to come back, promote that shit with us. We'd love to put it on.
For sure.
And thank you everyone for tapping in. Be sure to tap that bell. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you so much for listening. And thanks again to my man New. It was great
Yes, bro.
spending some time with you. Thank you very
You
much.
too. Thanks for having
Have a good
me.
night.
They're tapping out while you're tapped in.